Dollars and Cents is made on the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples. We pay our respects to elders past and present and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents, the Australia Institute podcast where we're talking about just what the hell is going on in the economy. I'm Elinor Johnston-Leake, the senior content producer here at the Australia Institute, and as always, I'm talking to our chief economist, Greg Jericho. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Elinor.
How are we doing this week?
Good. Yeah. Sort of good.
You sound unsure.
Well, my wife is, she's a school teacher and she's away on camp at the moment, which means I'm a single dad.
Oh, doing the tough.
I do not want to be a single dad. It's always the worst week of the year.
Yeah.
But other than that, things are good. Well,
oh no, I'm alone with my child.
Not so much alone with my child, alone having to do things that were normally shared. And,
well, at least they were shared evenly, I hope.
Yes, well, I do all the cooking.
Oh, that's very progressive of you, Greg.
Mainly because I love cooking.
Yeah. Anyway, Greg.
But anyway, just big shout out to all single parents everywhere you are. Gods on earth.
All right. Well, Greg, onto the podcast, the real economic stuff that we are supposed to talk about. Greg, we talk a lot about inflation on this podcast, maybe too much, but also maybe not enough.
Not enough, yeah.
Because as it turns out, many Australians don't maybe understand how interest rates and inflation actually work. The Reserve Bank recently surveyed 9,000 Australians about their understanding of the economy, their economic concerns, things like that. And one result from the survey has been generating a fair bit of interest. The RBA found a majority of Australians believe higher interest rates increase inflation, not decrease it. So about 59% of people think higher interest rates cause higher inflation. About a quarter, 27%, think high interest rates will decrease inflation, and the rest are unsure. If you're listening and you didn't know that higher interest rates are supposed to decrease inflation, don't be worried because you're not alone. But that's also why you're here, I guess, to learn more about the opaque pseudoscience that is economics. Greg, can you just give us a very basic explanation of what inflation is, what interest rates are, and what the relationship is between the two?
Yeah, this is a really good survey, and the RBA is going to start doing these more regularly because they want to get an idea of what populists think of or understand what they're doing. And there's been a little bit of smugness, I think, on behalf of some economics writers and even perhaps the RBA itself a little bit that, oh gosh, half the people don't know what's going on.
Know. Yeah.
And the reality is inflation is really complex and most people don't have a clue about it. It's one of the first columns I ever wrote for The Guardian back in 2013 trying to explain it. And the comments were, but that's not what my inflation is. That's not what. So, okay, let's go right back to start. What is inflation? Inflation is a measure of how fast prices have gone up over a set period of time, generally either 3 months or a year is generally what we talk about. So when you hear about the Reserve Bank wanting to target inflation of 2 to 3%, that means trying to target prices going up on average across the country in a year by 2 to 3%.
Sure.
Annual growth. Now, how do they calculate? First, if you live in the regions, sorry, we're not counting you.
Typical.
The ABS only counts inflation in the capital cities.
Yeah.
So Wagga Wagga, Cairns, Townsville, Broome, Whyalla, Alice Springs, Geelong, we're not counting you. Launceston, sorry. It is capital cities only. Now, okay, that captures most of the country, but it certainly leaves out a fairly significant chunk. So, okay, just
most of the population, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Not the country at land. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so, okay, counting the cities. What they then do is they go, right, what do Australian households spend their money on every year? And then they've come up with about 82 items that they have classified these things in, things like bread, restaurant dining, clothing for men, clothing for women, clothing for infants, electricity, secondary school, all these things. It's about 82 items. And within those items, obviously, there are different categories like bread. Okay, there's standard Coles $2 bread. There's wholemeal bread. There's sourdough bread. There's really fancy bread. So the Bureau of Stats has to work out, okay, what percentage of all of those breads make up bread. Then they also use census data, they use household spending data that they get to try and work out, okay, what percent of all of Australian household spending is on rent? What percent is on bread? What percent's on milk? What percent's on tobacco? And then they use that to weight all of these items. So it's not a case of, okay, milk went up 5%. That doesn't mean that's going to have the same impact on your cost of living on your inflation. I've made a mistake there. On your inflation.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, on your inflation, as say if
your rent went up.
Yeah, if your rent went up by 5%, because obviously milk's a lot cheaper than rent. And so they have to take that into account. So what we call is we weight those figures. So they do all of that, and they spend a heck of a lot of time, do a lot of data scraping of websites to find the prices of these things. And then they jumble them all up, work out a figure, give it a number, and then they keep doing that every month, and they work out, okay, on average, what things have gone up, how much have they gone up.
Yeah, so that's inflation. What about interest rates?
Yeah, okay. Interest rates are, as we know, the things paid by when you've got a home loan, the interest is how much you pay on your mortgage. So you borrow $500,000 at 5%. That means you're having to pay back the $500,000 plus 5%.
Yeah. And it's not just mortgages.
No. It also includes things like small business loans, credit cards, but also personal loans, like if you take out a car loan.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually do take out loans to go on holidays, things like that. But really, when we're talking about interest rates, the big two we're talking about is mortgages and small businesses, their overdraft loans and things like that, because they're the things that are most quickly affected by the Reserve Bank increasing or decreasing interest rates.
Yeah. Okay. So the Reserve Bank sets interest rates. How does that affect inflation?
Well, it sets again.
Okay.
Let's go back. Reserve Bank has a thing called the cash rate. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the cash rate is essentially the interest rate that it gives to banks for overnight loans, because banks occasionally, they need to pay out money and they don't always have that money sitting in the vault, so they have to borrow from the Reserve Bank to be able to just make up the shortfall. And they borrow that at the cash rate level. And that's lower than what we pay. But because that's a part of their funding of how they actually get money, it influences the interest rates that you pay for your mortgage. So if the Reserve Bank raises the cash rate by 0.5 percentage point, so it goes from, say, 3% to 3.5%, it's pretty likely that banks are going to raise your mortgage rate by 0.5 percentage point.
Or your small business loan. Yeah.
So that's how it affects them. And the same with cuts and everything.
Yeah. So then how do interest rates affect inflation?
Yeah, this is where we start getting into a bit of theory and also a bit of what the Reserve Bank would like to happen. Now, interest rates, when they go up, mortgages go up, small business loans go up. That means, one, you're a homeowner, you've got less money to spend on other things.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got basically a third of the population who have mortgages, suddenly have to pay, if you've got this, so far this year, we're talking about maybe nearly $300 a month more on your mortgage that you're having to pay. Well, you haven't got a $300 increase in your wages to cover that, so you've got to cut back spending elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is shop owners and people who offer services looking around going, geez, people aren't buying as much.
Mm.
You know, if you're a cafe, they're not buying, you know, all of the nice sweets under the counter. They're just getting a coffee or they're just not coming in.
Yeah.
And so the owner is thinking, well, I'm definitely not going to raise prices at the moment because it seems like people aren't even being able to afford what I'm offering at this price. So that's one impact on inflation because remember, inflation is how much prices are going up. So if shop owners, because interest rates have gone up, are noticing that people are spending less, that might mean they think, oh, I'm not going to raise prices much. So that helps slow inflation. But also what they're doing is looking around going, we're not real busy here. Do we need this many staff?
Mm.
Or I might cut back on hours of some of the staff. Or I'm definitely not going to employ that new person that I was thinking about employing. That raises unemployment, which means that, okay, there's fewer people with jobs.
Yep.
So less money being spent everywhere in shops and on services. And also, and this is the crucial thing that the Reserve Bank is really worried about right now, is it means when it comes time to negotiate for a wage rise, you are looking around going, geez, they've been cutting back on hours, they've been cutting back on staff. I'm not sure I'm going to ask for a big pay rise right now. I'm just going to be thankful I've got my job.
Yeah.
And those two things are what the Reserve Bank hopes and believes happens when it raises interest rates. And that's why they would suggest that raising interest rates lowers inflation.
Okay. But Greg, you keep saying that's what the RBA believes. Do you not believe that?
Well, I believe it to an extent, but I can understand why people are saying, no, that's not my experience. So let's think about inflation and some of the things in inflation. Rents are in inflation. Many people rent, and so obviously how much rents go up is a factor in inflation. What we know is that when interest rates go up, and you are a renter.
I am a renter.
What often happens when interest rates go up?
Rents go up.
Rents go up.
Yeah.
Because landlords, whether or not they've been negative gearing and so that it doesn't actually matter to them, will often use the excuse of, oh, my borrowing costs have gone up on my investment loan. So I'm going to pass that on, that increased cost, to my customer who is the renter.
Yep.
And so in my column, I've got a graph showing the cash rate that the Reserve Bank sets going up and down all the way back to 1977. And I've got the annual growth of rents and they move in sync.
Yeah.
And if anything, if you would say, oh, it's not perfectly in sync, and that's because rents are a little bit behind, you know, so obviously it takes a little while to follow through, but basically interest rates go up, the speed in which rent's going up increases as well. So
you might be thinking, you know, they've increased interest rates, but I haven't noticed prices dropping. In fact, my rent's gone up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you're going, what do you mean inflation's going down? My rents are going up.
Yeah.
And you can understand if you're a renter and you've become used to that, you think, what the hell?
Yeah.
Interest rates going up, my rent goes up, and they keep saying, oh, no, this is bringing inflation down. It's like,
what are you talking
sorry,
about?
I don't get that. Yeah. The other thing, and this is really crucial, is the biggest cost, apart from if you're, you know, a renter. If you're not a renter, the biggest cost you have is paying your mortgage.
Yeah.
And what have we just said happens when interest rates go up? Your mortgage goes up.
Yeah. So if you have a mortgage, you might be thinking, well, I'm paying more.
Yeah.
How prices going down?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what we've got here are two sets of households that basically make up, you know, about 2/3 to 70% of all of households in Australia, and that is either renters or people paying off a mortgage.
Yeah.
And both of them are thinking, okay, when the Reserve Bank raises interest rates, my costs go up.
Yeah.
But this is the crucial thing, though. Mortgages are not included in the inflation figures.
Which at first seems crazy.
It does.
Because what do you mean? That's the price I have to pay.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And they used to be included. From about 1986 to 1998,
Okay.
they were included. the Reserve Bank didn't like them being included.
Why did they not like it being included?
Because, remember, they think raising interest rates slows inflation.
So if you're raising interest rates and mortgages are
going up,
yeah.
then that's kind of working against it. And so their argument is that, look, this is counterintuitive. It's also making our job harder because everyone's judging inflation by the inflation figure.
Yes,
which is as you would. But what we're having to do as the Reserve Bank is kind of strip out the mortgage figure. And so they were in a sense saying we're working off a bit of a different calculation to what the overall figure is, and it's just not good. Let's get rid of it. Okay, fine. They got rid of it.
But rents are still included.
Rents are still included.
Yep.
Because they would say that's an indirect impact. Whereas the mortgage is a direct thing. Interest rates went up. Mortgage repayments are interest. So what they did was they took out mortgages and put it in a new measure called cost of living indexes.
Okay.
Which are basically inflation, but including mortgages.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we...
At this point, you're thinking, oh, geez, why would anybody be confused by all of this? Why would it? And the classic thing is Michelle Bullock herself got confused, as I did earlier when I mixed up cost of living and inflation.
It doesn't surprise me in a way because when inflation is high, interest rates tend to be rising. So people tend to think, and the other reason I think is because people who have mortgages at least, they see increases in interest rates as an increase in the cost of living. But it's not really. So interest rates are the response to high inflation. They're not causing high inflation.
In a Q&A session she had last week after a speech she gave, was asked about this survey, and she said, well, look, it's understandable, but the thing is people see when their mortgages go up, they think their cost of living is going up, and it isn't really. And it's like, sorry, your cost of living is going up, but the inflation isn't going up because it's not included. But again,
if even Michelle Bullock is getting this confused.
And also, imagine as, I'm sort of your reaction before, you say to someone, oh, sorry, we don't count mortgages in inflation. They're like, but it's an inflation meant to measure
the prices of things.
And this is my biggest thing. You say, oh, take that out.
Yeah.
And it very quickly becomes, oh, this is economists shifting goalposts, moving things. Oh, things are good if you don't include this, and this.
And then they wonder why everyone's confused and get smug when people don't understand it.
And a good example of what we're talking about here is this week, the cost of living figures come out. They come out every three months, the week after the inflation figures come out. Mm-hmm. So last week, we had the inflation figures showed that in the June quarter, inflation went up 0.6%.
Okay.
Which is nice, pretty good. 6 forwards of 24. So if we kept that going for a whole year, inflation would just be 2.4%. Beautiful, really good.
Mm-hmm.
This week, the cost of living figures came out, and for what the cost of living figures also do is they split. They don't do, everyone's an average. They split up Australia into 4 types of households, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First is employee households, so people who've got a job.
Yep.
That makes up about 70% of households. Then you've got households who are age pensioners, households who are on other government support, so job seeker, disability support pension, those type. And the final group is the quote-unquote self-funded retirees.
Yeah.
They do that because obviously people have different spending habits during their lives and depending on their income. If you're an age pensioner or a self-funded retiree, childcare ain't a big thing for you. Neither is education, But if you're an employee household, a lot of employee households are more likely to have kids. So they, as a percent, spend more of their income on childcare and education, things like that. So it all affects it. But crucially, employee households are more likely to have mortgages. And in the June quarter, the cost of living for employee households didn't go up 0.6%. It went up 1.5%.
Wow. That is
in just that one quarter. And it came off the back of the March quarter where their cost of living went up 1.4%. So what happened in the first 6 months of this year? the Reserve Bank raised interest rates 3 times.
Yeah, they sure did.
And when you break down all the figures in the June quarter, mortgage increases accounted for 70% of that increase in cost of living.
Holy I was going to say, holy shit.
Yeah. So if you took out mortgages,
Yeah.
the increase in cost of living would have been about 0.5. So very close to the inflation.
So no wonder people don't, really.
So no wonder when people, so this is why, everyone was a little bit, I think, oh God, how can people not know these things? It's complicated. It's hard. And it also requires you basically accepting that, we're not counting these things. And so, okay, you accept that, but then you get to that next point of going, but it still doesn't work out for me. And then you find out, yes, the CPI figures include the fact that you smoke, include the fact that you do have someone in childcare, that you're paying for primary school, secondary school, tertiary. You went on an international holiday, you went on a domestic, all of these things, because again, it's an average, and there is no average Australian who does everything, who spends some money on lamb, some money on pork, some money on fish every week, And that's where it gets really confusing for people. And, you can understand why they sort of throw up their hands and go, you seem like you're just playing around with me. And to be honest, when I see things like Michelle Bullock saying, look, sorry, mortgages really don't affect your cost of living, I'm kind of like, look, if you are getting it wrong.
And it's probably just a slip up, but
probably
still.
just a slip up, but still.
Yeah.
Especially when it was the Reserve Bank who are the ones who are like, please, we don't want to include mortgages in inflation. It's like, who are you talking to, Michelle? Who's kind of your audience?
Yeah.
And maybe be a bit more, aware of the pain and the reasoning why they might not believing your whole thing. Because remember as well, back in May, and we talked about this, when they announced the most recent increase in interest rates, Michelle Bullock came out and said, these interest rate rises won't have any impact on inflation for the next 6 months. And it's like, okay. And then you're wondering why people answer a survey going, I don't know what interest rates are doing,
I remember when we talked about that, I remember reading, when she said that in her speech afterwards. And I was just like, again, questioning who is your audience here? If you're telling, whoever's at this press conference, we know this isn't going to affect interest rates. Who are you talking to? Are you assuming that people aren't listening to this speech? Yeah.
And especially because in that Q&A that she did where she was saying that, she was saying, we're concerned about inflationary pressures.
Well, yes. That is
and
inflationary
expectations.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to get to. So, last time the RBA raised interest rates, part of the reason given was that they wanted to control inflationary expectations. Can you just give a quick explanation of what she's talking about?
Inflationary expectations, they are basically just, what do you think inflation's going to do over the next year, Elinor? That's your inflationary expectation.
Yeah.
Do you think inflation is going to go up 3%, 3.5%, 4%? Give me a number. I'll survey a whole lot of people. We'll add up those numbers and get an average. Yeah. And that's the consumer's inflationary expectations. We'll also do that for business leaders. We'll do it for unions.
Yeah.
Might even ask some economists and we'll say, this is inflationary expectation.
So how did increasing interest rates then theoretically affect inflationary expectations?
Yeah, it's, again, when you're getting people who are thinking, wait on, inflation, interest rates increase my mortgages and increase my rents, and they probably don't realize that mortgages aren't included in inflation. It's not it's like, how are we
assuming that this is going to affect inflationary expectations if people don't understand the relationship?
Exactly. And also, most economists, this is the dirty secret of inflationary expectations. It's not like consumers have some magic insight into what's going to happen over the next year. They are basing it on what they're seeing on a day-to-day experience. And the one price that everyone sees every day, generally about every 200 meters if they're driving major roads in a city,
which is where
one big
inflation is
price,
counted.
which is where it's counted, is one price of one item, petrol.
Yeah. Up there in the neon lights.
You can't avoid it. Everyone knows it. And so what really, when you look at it, kind of petrol prices and whether they're going up or down is more correlated with inflationary expectations than really any other thing. Because you're like, oh, prices going up. Okay, petrol price going up. Oh, inflation's going up. I think that's, it's a major cost.
Yeah.
And so,
and it's something the RBA has no control over.
The RBA has no control over, and literally admitted when they raised interest rates that they had no control over inflation because it was mainly driven by the supply shock on oil prices, which are determine petrol price. But at the same time, she said we want to affect inflationary expectations, which are affected by
Can you just give a quick explanation about how she thought that increasing interest rates would affect
what she is because she is operating on the assumption that people know that when interest rates go up, inflation will come down.
Yeah.
The Reserve Bank raising interest rates makes it seem like the Reserve Bank is very much trying to clamp down inflation. But also what she was trying to do was, even aside from the fact that interest rates don't affect petrol prices, they still affect how much you pay for your mortgage.
Yep.
So they still have that impact of, I've got to cut back on spending elsewhere. And so that has the effect of shops going, I'm not going to raise prices. And also, we're going to cut down on staff or hours, because what the Reserve Bank is worried about is that when the Iran war all clears up, everyone's unemployment will be low and everyone's like, great, I'm going for a big pay rise now to make up for all the inflation that we've lost. She would like things to be a bit tougher, people to be a bit more worried about keeping their jobs and going for a wage rise. And so that's why they raised interest rates.
But if people apparently don't understand the relationship between the two.
Well, they're still feeling that pain, even if they don't understand the relationship.
Okay. So I guess just bringing it back to the survey itself, 59% of people getting the answer supposedly technically incorrect, but the answer doesn't reflect their lived experience. So how can we really be, being smug about people not understanding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the correct answer doesn't reflect their lived experience. And that's the thing. And it's understandable. I think that's why hopefully our podcast helps sort of listeners understand these things.
Hopefully,
certainly in my columns and everything we do here, I never assume that these things are obvious because they're not.
Yeah.
And some of it's very confusing purposefully, almost, you think sometimes. And some of the groups in power kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because then you just stop questioning them.
Do we think that maybe some of this is the fault of, say, the RBA / our governments in not better communicating these economic terms?
Oh, look, yes. But, it's, and also the media.
Yeah, true.
It's really tough. And one of the things is also it's kind of cruel because, why is the Reserve Bank wanting to slow the economy? Why is the Reserve Bank wanting more people to be out of work? And they're like, so we can reduce inflation. Well, that's a hard sell to somebody to say we need people to lose their jobs or we need unemployment to rise so that this arbitrary range of 2 to 3% inflation is achieved. And so generally they shy away from that.
It's better to just not even try to sell it.
Yeah, and they just make the leap of, we're raising interest rates to reduce inflation.
Yeah.
Because we need to reduce excess demand. And as soon as you start talking like that, it's people going, what the fuck's excess demand? I don't know.
Yeah. Changing the channel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just before we head off, Greg, I did want to get to this because I thought it would be fun and exciting. As our interest rates are calculated, with a range of different things that not necessarily everyone actually pays for, things like, say, tobacco. Not everyone uses children's clothes, things like that. So you calculated, for both of us, what our inflation rates would be if we took out those goods that we don't pay for.
Yeah.
Just as a little fun.
So the annual inflation rate at the moment is 3.8%.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, we can actually look at the figures and go, right, if we take out various things,
Yep.
like I don't smoke, so take out tobacco, you don't have kids, so you're not doing childcare or buying children's clothes and things like that. What would our inflation be if we took it out? Now, yours, if we took out all the things that you don't like spending things on, like pork and lamb, apparently.
Yeah, no.
It would only be 2.6.
Oh, okay.
Mine, with taking out all things like I don't rent, it would be 2.5. So much lower.
Oh, lame.
But here's the other problem.
Yep.
That's just assuming that, okay, we didn't spend money on those things and we didn't spend more money than everyone else on the things we did. So when you reweight everything, your inflation comes in at 3.3%.
Okay.
Mine's at 3.1%. I'm going to tell you, tobacco, if there is someone in your household.
It's not me. It's not me.
If you want your household's inflation to really come down, and this goes for everyone, tobacco, get rid of that.
I'll pass it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Good to know. All right. Well, I reckon that's probably all we've got time for today,
I think
Greg.
it is always good to end not only with some economic advice, but also some health advice. So
yeah. Don't smoke. It's good for your inflation rate.
It's good for your lungs and your wallet.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Elinor. Been good, and hopefully we've enlightened some people about inflation.
Yeah,
this
hopefully made
damn
it
complex thing.
make a little bit more sense.
If you would like to read more about this topic, head on over to the Guardian Australian site. I've got all the graphs and everything.
And just before we go, Greg, More Fool Me, How the Gas Industry Tricked Australia by our boss, Richard Dennis, is the latest Vantage Point essay from Australia Institute Press. It's available now for just $19.95. In the essay, Richard pulls back the curtain on gas exports and shows how the industry is allowed to pay so little in tax and royalties, even when gas prices have skyrocketed. Use the code FOOLME, that's FOOLME, on a 4-edition Vantage Point subscription to receive a free copy of Richard's book, Econobabble, which I have read, and it's quite good.
It is great.
Yeah. Get yours now at australiainstitute.org.au/store, or there will be a link in the show notes.
Excellent. And we will be back with another Dollars and Cents, but this episode of Dollars and Cents was recorded on the 6th of August, and some things may have changed. If you'd like to find out more about everything going on in the world, head on over to thepoint.com.au. Lots of great stuff, lots of great content. And next week, because Parliament's back, Amy Romakis' live blog will be back, and it is fantastic. As always, music from Blue Dot Sessions. Everyone, have a great week. Bye.
See ya.